All right, Video Barbershop version 1.2.6 has a new system of metadata in here. And you can fill in your own custom fields and type in, say we're going to do the year, location, I'm going to say thrifted. You can type in whatever you want about your video, and as you make clips, in the clips themselves you can have different types of information that you add in. So I'm going to say just commercial as an example, give it a genre of automotive and subgenre. I don't need to do that for this example, but I could do a multiple select beverage and automotive. So you can have these different types of forms in different settings that you do, all defined by you. Now, I had previously created a video about the metadata system, and I've deleted that video because I've completely redone the system. But I'm going to put up what the old format of the metadata templating system was, and now what it's actually changed to. And this new form here, that is the new structure, and the reason why I deleted the old video. As I've gone through and added more and more features, this is the new structure that we've settled on that makes everything much easier to deal with. The old structure had some problems when I started adding in these new features, and so for anyone that's seen the old video and have done any templates and created reports in the old system, you're going to have to update your conventions, but it's pretty easy, and you're going to be really happy with this new structure once you start using it. So let's get into this of like how you actually define and create this. So in the app settings, there's a section here, metadata and templates. Now, metadata is where you define these actual fields. And for this example that I've got right here, I've got a clip, and it's got a title, genre, and subgenre. Well, you can see here's the clip title, and here's the clip genre and clip subgenre. I have these other ones in here as well. And the difference between the clip and video beginning here is a scope for where this metadata variable lives. And clip dot is scoped to the clip itself, and video dot, as you probably already guessed, is scoped to the video and the video controls. And so you can go through and customize exactly what fields you want where and what their relevant context is. Now, as you'll see when we're generating reports, the video information is relevant for every single clip in here, but the clip information is specific to that individual clip. So if I had multiple clips, all three of these clips are going to inherit this video scoped metadata, but the individual clip itself won't. It'll just define what you set for each individual clip. And we'll do this and do that. So as you can see, as we switch through, oh, actually that's not updating. Interesting. I'll have to look into that bug. This is a perfect time to mention that Video Barbershop is in beta. It's available for free. Download off Apple's test flight system. Link is in the YouTube channel description. But you probably will come across some bugs, and it's worth shooting me an email and letting me know what you find. I'll definitely have to take a look at why that's not. I wonder if it's just a refresh thing. No, it seems to be a little buggy. That the title is updating and the genre, but not the multi-select. Okay, I'll make note of that. Anyway, as I was saying, is you define your variables in here and you give them a scope, and when you're creating a new variable, you just decide what scope it is. You give it your key that you want to, your variable name that you want to do it with that scoping. If you select the clip scope, it shows you here. Your display name, that's what these titles are on the labels here. The sort order, you can customize the sorting of how they appear in the form, and then the different type of the data itself. Now you noticed I had 3 different types here. I had a text entry, I have a selector, and I have a multi-select. So with clip title, this is under the small text option. If you do large text, that turns into a text block where you can enter in paragraphs. I don't need that for this, so I'm just going to do small text. Let's see, the genre, the clip genre, as you can see, this is a single choice. And so you just give it a comma-separated list of all the choices you want. And with single choice, it allows you to just select the one. And then the subgenre, it's the exact same data that I had in the genre, but I allow it to do the multiple choice select instead of the single choice. And I do have this sort ordered so that these lay out in a nice way. Normally what they do is they get staggered across 3 columns, but they kind of calculate what the overall size of all the elements are, and they try to pack them evenly within here. So it can get a little random and chaotic, but you play around with the sort order and you can kind of get these in a nice way. But by default, it tries to pack them in a very efficient and helpful way. But that's what you first do, is you define your metadata fields and you populate the options, and then you'll see them in these 2 different sections. The next thing we do is we can create templates. Now, new in version 1.2.6 is macros. And so if you have seen the previous video, this was not a feature of the old system, but I'll get into this in this example, but it allows you to just create a macro of a complex string that you could use within your templates. Now, I've got 2 templates that I've created, and you can see them down here. As you create templates, you'll see this expand, open, and show your various reports that you can select. And let me get into that in a little bit, but let's just actually let's clear this off. Let's go back to clipping. I want to do some actual clipping here. Now, let me take commercial break detection. If you haven't used this yet, what you do is you find a black screen, you calibrate it with this button. It determines the blackness level and the noise level of the ambient kind of black screen, and then it'll go through and automate finding all the various commercial breaks and clipping it out between your videos. So this one, I know how it's going to clip it out. There's this one segment that's real short here that it doesn't quite clip correctly, but for this purpose it's fine. And you can always, like, I know you can see right here, that's where the clip is, and then it snaps to, there we go, let's do that, let's cut that, split clip, that's what we want. There we go. So now we've got our clips actually broken out. So let's go in here. Let's take this video. It was thrifted, I'll say that. The quality, so I've got this cute little indicator here of different qualities. It's not bad. It's not bad. It's a little fuzzy, and the audio's low. But it's easy enough to clean. I do know that this VHS tape was recorded in 1985, so I've got my year noted here. So this, as I said, this applies, will apply for all the clips, just relative to the video itself. Now each clip, as you're going through and editing the clips and adjusting the audio and everything, oh, actually the audio is pretty good. Maybe meh is pretty good. It still is pretty fuzzy and dark. But anyway, you can go through here and take a look. And so I know this is a news segment and genre. Do have a news subgenre. Not quite sure what they're talking about. No, it's just kind of more of a station stinger. So I'll do station ID. And then we've got stereo system, stereo village. Stereo village, and I know this is what, electronics. Do I have, it's probably more tech related, or well, retail. Let's do retail. It's store commercial, and then we can do tech as the subgenre. Got here, it's waterbed commercial. It's a very strange waterbed commercial, but New Orleans waterbeds. So let's see, just say waterbeds. And here we'll do retail again. And I believe there's a home. There we go, home. So you can see, I'm not going to go through everything, but you can go through as you're editing your commercial clips and you're doing your thing. You can go through and actually tag all of this system and get your information in for what these clips are. Now, the YouTube report, let me show what the YouTube report does. And so I'm going to merge all these clips and export them together. So let's do that right now. Now it's going to go through. I didn't label these other clips with any of this information here, but they do have the video information. But for YouTube, let me show you what the YouTube report does specifically. And this will take just a few more seconds as it's going through the clips. So there's my merged video that it's compiling together in its final exporting stage. Now, every export that you do, if you have a report selected, it'll generate that report alongside your video. The video itself, however it's named, it'll add in the report name that you gave it. It'll append it to it. And if we take a look at this report, you can see it's got the exported video file, full path, and then it's got a line per clip. And I've got the start time of when it's featured within my video that has now been exported, and the titles that I created. Now, I don't know if you noticed, but I believe on the news segment, I had it lowercased. So what it's done is it's gone through and actually uppercased, capitalized, I should say, the words in there. And as you can see, I've got, from when I didn't fill in these later clips, it's added this kind of notice for me of like, oh, these clips, I haven't filled in these fields. So this report, I've called it YouTube because you can create these chapter markers and copy and paste this into YouTube, and it'll designate these chapter markers. And this is the format that YouTube likes for doing that kind of stuff, real simple. So let me show you what the YouTube template actually looks like. So in here, we've got the video header, video.export file. Now this is a variable that I didn't create in the metadata list. This is a variable that the system has available to it. And likewise with clip.start, that is the start time of the clip within your exported video. Now where these come from, I've got this little pop-up here that will show every option, every variable that's in the system. There's specific system variables, there's clip scoped special variables, and there's special video scoped variables. And then I also list the variables that you create yourself. And so you can also select these. And what I mean by that is if you click the button, it copies it to the clipboard, and then you can just kind of, paste it in there without having to worry about the typo. So little helpful tool there for all of the various variables and variable expressions that you might create. You can start by just cutting and pasting and not worry about doing a typo on export file. But go through here. There's a ton of different capabilities, like just generating a UUID, or the year, doing the current date in here. There's a bunch of stuff in here that's really great for that. So I've got that. Now for each clip, as you saw, it was the start time. However, the start time, if you actually look at it, if just by default, there's decimals to the seconds. And so there's this transformer, the variable transformer, that transforms the text into a new output. And the format is, let's actually go up to here because it specifies it here. The format is, as you saw earlier in the video, scope.variable in double braces, question mark for a fallback. Now this is if this is empty and you didn't fill it in, you can do a fallback information. So as you saw with the clip title, they were empty, I didn't fill them in, but they actually did output something, and I leveraged the fallback for that. And then your transformers. Now transformers can be chained so that you can have multiple transformers feeding into each other, and that's the new kind of the general format for all variable expressions in your template system. Now left here, what that does is, as you go scroll down here, I have a list of all the transformers that are available as well. And left and right and pad and lower and quote, all in here that you can read through and see what they do. But left specifically, first end strings in value, where car is the delimiter, default car is period, default n is 1. So that's very wordy, but basically what it does is it takes a delimiter. In this case, the default is a period, and you're taking everything left of that period. Right is everything right of the period. So it's specifically designed for cleaning up this kind of stuff, where you can break the string off into pieces by a delimiter. In this case, it's the period, and so you'll have two chunks, and I'm taking the left first chunk, or if you do right, it would be the right chunk of that delimiter. If you have multiple delimiters, it'll be the rightmost number of them and the leftmost number of them. So you can play around with this, but there's a lot of different possibilities in here. So I'm taking this number and I'm just taking what's left of the period. That's what YouTube likes. YouTube doesn't like the decimals. Clip title. So this is where I'm using this fallback option, and then I've got it, clip in here, and there's the exclamation points, and then clip index. So as you can see, I'm actually embedding another expression within this expression itself, wrapping it with raw text. Now I'm also then piping that into the capital, which this is the function that capitalizes each word. So even my fallback is getting updated, and as you can see from the log here, you can see clip is actually capitalized, even though my template had it lowercase text in there. But you can chain this along and capitalize and do various things. I can do, there's one that is called glyph, if I can spell it correctly. And you can take everything that is non-alphanumeric and say, convert all non-alphanumeric characters to, in this case I'm saying underscore. So we can do this as a sample example real quick. Now if you hold down the Option key, you don't have to, you can see if I hold down the Option key, you don't have to generate the entire video every time you want to do a report. It just did it right there. So it removed, as you saw, everything that was non-alphanumeric characters. It removed, it trimmed it, and then it replaced what was left, in this case just the space, with an underscore. So you can see how you can pipe various expressions and kind of chain them together down this chain to kind of update them as you prefer. And so this is what I have set up for my YouTube report for generating those kind of chapter markers. Now, if you want to do, say you want to keep track of your information in an Excel database, or not database, but an Excel file that you can search and go through. I have this one that I created as an example, and what it does is it has the header information in the first, the header template section. It's a tab delimited list of the columns titles. Special characters, let me mention, in here you can do special characters like tab. You can actually tab, so if you had something and you tab it and do other things, it'll preserve that, so you can do that. If you want to keep it a little cleaner, you can do the specialized character there. Now there's tab, there's new line, and there's also a single space that you can use, and this is also within the templating system itself, that you can leverage those special characters, and they'll get replaced out with the actual characters themselves. But I've got my header here. I've got each title for each column separated by a tab. I'm doing a tab delimited CSV file basically. And then I've got each one of my various fields in here, and you can see there's a macro here, and I'll explain that in a second. But each variable expression for each column, so there's the export file, there's the year, quality, video quality, location. So I've got all my information in here in a single line. Now the header template gets written once, and the clip per clip template gets written once per clip that's merged. Now if you just extract out individual clips, like I'm going to export all 7 of these individual clips, I'm going to generate the reports only, it'll actually break out every single one of the reports per file that would get generated. And it's a, in this case, you've got your one line for that one clip. My start time is pretty meaningless because every one of these clips are going to start at 0 time because it's the only file getting, generated out. But it does, generate your files that way, log files, one per. And if I, selected multiple and did, this, you'll see it generates one log per file per, So I've got my database, I've got my YouTube per each one of those. Now I want to show you, well, actually let's select this. I want to show you the database log specifically for all of these merged together. Now when you merge them, like I said, it does the, I'm not gonna generate the file, but the database template, as you saw, we were tab delimiting the information in here, and we've got this. Now let's just kind of copy that. Now I've got Excel open here, and you can just paste that right in here. Because it's tab separated, Excel knows, or Google Docs, whatever you want to use, they all know that tabs are a delimiter and will separate these things out into the columns. So you can really just create your data in a perfect form for you to copy and paste. And in the future, maybe you already have this header in these rows and you don't need them in your template, so you can go in and just or actually you can go in and just copy just the information you want, and so you can add in your new row of data into your Excel sheet. It's all there for you. But one thing I should actually let's do that. Let me emphasize one little detail that's kind of helpful to know when you're doing this kind of stuff is let's go back to this text field. So thrifted, I'm going to do 2 lines in New Orleans. I've got a multiple line text block here of information. Now when I generate this, and it generated it, it broke it out into the multiple lines, but as you'll see, if I copy and paste this back into Excel, those multiple lines kind of break everything and mess it all up. It treats it as a new line. So what you can do, close this. What you can do is you go into the template and where was location? There's a function in here. Let's go back down here. There's a function in here, quote, which just wraps your text in with a double quote symbol by default. If you can specify a character that you wrap your string in, but if you just do quote, it does double quotes. So I'm going to do this. So quote, and we'll save that template, and we'll regenerate this file. Copy. Then in Excel, let's delete that and paste. And so now you can see everything's all nicely aligned again, and each cell for the location preserves those new line characters. So when in doubt, wrap your thing in quote and separate it by tabs, and you'll get a nice little tab delimited CSV file out of this using your templates. Now let me show you, if you noticed in the star here, this is the macro, the new feature that you can do. And let me show you again what it actually did. And so it's got 3 stars here. What it does is, based upon the quality, the reason I did it this way is because it takes the length of the string that you're doing here. So this would be 1, 2, 3, or 4 characters long. And for every character, it converts it and replaces it with a star based upon the length of the string. And so let me do that again. And you can see the difference. So now with good, we've got 4 stars for the 4 letters of good, and we can do a 1 star. Just generate that real quick. We've got our 1 star based upon the length of the string. So it just effectively just converts everything to a string. But this, or I mean a string of stars. But this is a perfect example to show how a macro can work. Oh, no, wrong one. How a macro can work. We've got video quality, and then immediately after that, I've got this star macro. And so what star macro is is it's a chain of transformers, just a raw string that gets substituted in. And what it does is so imagine you've got your information, it gets passed into here, it gets the length of the string, it uses that now as its value. And then we've got this repeat function. All of these functions are defined in here that you can go through and take a look at. Just so you also know, I have conditionals in here where you can do a transformer conditionally based upon the information that you're comparing. And I've got stacks, or a stack, and you can pop and push into stacks, and you can peek and you can clear the stack. But there's both system variables in which you can use the stack as a variable itself, as well as transformer functions for manipulating the stack. So what I'm doing here is I'm using the repeat function. I'm repeating the length value. You can pass in a reference to what the current value is with the @ symbol. All of this is mentioned in here. And then I'm repeating this expression the number of times that the string is long. And what it does is it peaks at the top element of the stack, and it appends a star to it, and then it pushes that into the stack. And so the stack will then be, because it starts out empty, it'll be 1 star, then 2 stars, then 3 stars, then 4 stars. Now at the end of that loop, I then pop the top of the stack, which is the 4 stars, and then I clear it. So the clear function clears the stack, empties the stack, but it passes along the previous value. So the previous value will be those 4 stars. And so that's what this star function does. You can put it after, you can put it after your value that you want to convert into stars, and it uses the stack to do some tricky little manipulation. Now this is a pretty convoluted example, but it's a great example showing the complex nature of this language and piping your value into the next variable transformer, and the kind of stuff that you can play with and do to your heart's content. There's a lot in here. Like I said, a lot of the information is in this variables tab. Additionally, if you haven't looked into the help tab, I do have a help section for all of the features in Video Barbershop in general, and it talks about all the different things, and there's a metadata section where I go into detail about how all of this works and what they all are. But then there's also a specific metadata help system where I go into and break down each one of these things in far greater detail. So if you have any questions about anything about the metadata system, I've documented it fairly well here. I also have the language guide, which is a complete breakdown of all of the details about the language and its format, as well as all of the various types of system variables and transformers and what they do. And so there's just a ton you can see in here. Also the escaping characters. So there's a ton of stuff that you can go through and do for the metadata system. It's very complex, but I'm really excited by this. The new format really allows the chaining of these things and the ability to manipulate stuff in really useful ways. So not only does Video Barbershop allow you to edit your videos and be a part of that editing pipeline itself to clean this up, but now you can manage the metadata in the context of these clips after you've even exported them, and to generate the files that you need for whatever kind of cataloging or databasing type of system you do to manage this. You can enter in all this information and edit a video together, get your chapter markers, And I'm really excited by this metadata system. I think it's going to be really great. Now I have found some bugs, and I will be updating the language and getting more and more features in there in the future. But I think this is really exciting stuff, and I hope you get a chance to play with it. All right, thank you so much. I really appreciate any feedback that you send in, and working to build this out and add even more and more features. A lot of this metadata concept came from a discussion I had with Far Out Junk and Far Out VHS. He was talking about cataloging his commercial clips, and I started asking about how he does that, and it made me realize that I could really build a tool in here that helps manage that on the back end of after exporting all of your videos. And so I think I'm really excited by this. I hope you like it and get to use it. So, all right, thank you so much.